Go for it, go for it. I'm just saying I'm not finished yet. Search for it, swing for it. Discover the me that lives in yes. Stand for it, stretch for it. It's my time, imagine my best. Run for it, reach for it. Uncover the me that lives in yes. I know, yes I know. There'll be miracles wherever I go. It's not work, it's play. I can make magic today.
Hi everyone, welcome to Senior Nation. I'm your host, Phyllis Ayman, and you are listening to the Source TV Radio Network, WTSN, Washington, D.C. We are indeed a senior nation with 100 plus million adults over the age of 50, and we are here to bring you up-to-date information about successful aging, healthful longevity, and what I call becoming a well-ager, to dignity, respect, quality of life, and quality of care for our parents, our grandparents, and our loved ones. We at Senior Nation will be your trusted voice for informed choices, meaningful conversations, and a vibrant life at every age. Though the Source TV Radio Network is known for its dedication to bringing the highest level of jazz content to the viewing and listening audience, the owners of the network are also dedicated to bringing this important content to this fast-growing demographic, and I'm always grateful for the opportunity. And now to introduce tonight's guest. Dan Cohen is founder and CEO of Right to Music and a passionate advocate for integrating best practice music-based interventions into healthcare, especially long-term care and for all persons living with dementia. Dan founded Music and Memory, a nonprofit organization that promotes the use of personalized music to enhance the well-being of the elderly and infirm. The therapeutic and joyful outcomes of his work are portrayed in the Sundance Audience Award-winning documentary, Alive Inside. He's presented at numerous healthcare and dementia caregiver conferences in the United States and internationally. Driven by his vision of widespread adoption of music-based interventions, Dan is focused on advocating for policy changes, raising public awareness, improving research, and modifying the curriculum for future healthcare professionals. Additionally, he co-founded the International Music and Dementia Advocacy Coalition, which seeks to expand global access to music for people living with dementia. And I'm so thrilled to have Dan here with me this evening.
Well, thanks, Phyllis. I'm delighted to be here, and we'll spend this hour. Yes.
Yeah, we've known each other for several years, and it's always great to have a conversation with you and talk about all your work, and it's really super. So I'm glad you were able to make the time.
My pleasure.
So let's start with what Music and Memory is, how it came about, and some of the phenomenal outcomes that people might see if they went to stream the film, the documentary Alive Inside, which I have to say is quite touching.
Great. So it really, for me, it started. So I'm both a social worker by training and I have a career in tech companies. But in 2006 on the radio, I heard a journalist talking about how iPods at the time were ubiquitous. They're everywhere. And I thought, well, a lot of young people have them, many adults. But if you're old or you have dementia or you're in a nursing home, it just seemed to me, no way did you have access to your music. And so I called up a nearby nursing home to where I live. And I said, I know you already have a lot of music. You have karaoke, you have musicians coming in, you have a big staff. But can we see if there's any added value if we really keep people connected with the music they love? Okay, not music that's determined for a group.
Right.
And so I went in as a volunteer every couple of weeks, and I'd set people up with their music. And I'd hone the lists, and I'd end up with 100, 150 songs in each list, and I'd watch people just light up to the music. And I said, this is pretty cool. Now, I tell my family, friends what's going on, and this is what I was doing, and I was having such a great reaction. They go, how nice, Dan, you're doing this for the old people. And I thought, no, this goes beyond that. This, in an age of making change of how people's mood is and how they feel, this was pretty huge. Drugs don't do this. And so I founded Music and Memory as a way to devote my efforts to I came up with an approach to have large numbers of people in a facility, but everybody get their own personalized, tailored playlist. And so that worked out, really well. And I went on to train about 5,000 nursing homes and assisted living facilities and hospitals and hospices and day programs and caregiver companies and agencies and such. But even though it's a big number, it's really only like 1 out of every 9 or 10 of these entities in the country. There are 40,000 plus,
Right.
long-term care facilities. That meant 9 out of 10 said, no, we're sticking with the old way.
Right.
We've done it for 50 years. And the research and what we've learned about music is, wait a minute, there's all this potential to do more than you're doing now. We don't give people a medication and prescribe a medication that requires twice a day to take the pill and say, we'll give it to you once on Sunday and then once on Wednesday. We just don't do that with medicine because one pill doesn't solve the problem. And the same thing with music. One music session doesn't suddenly make you forever less depressed. There is a residual effect, and that varies per person. But let's give people regular dose of music, and what will that do? And so that's sort of how I got started. But I was still frustrated because at the time, I didn't start off with, training hundreds of places. Every individual place was like, I got no for an answer every time. Well, most of the time, sometimes I'd get a yes. That'd be great. But again, it's that 1 out of, 9 or 10 that would say that. And so I had to get this on film because I wasn't, to my family who says, what are you doing? Kind of, nice, but, what are you spending your time there for? And so I was able to get a filmmaker to come in with me one afternoon to one of the nursing homes. And we had this gentleman, his name is Henry. And here's a guy who has spent years there, 8 years, most of the time with his head down and not communicative. And little did they know when he got to listen to his favorite song from Cab Calloway, and his eyes light up. And then when you take off the headphone, he starts talking a Blue Streak.
Right.
When I was 10 years old, my dad died. I had to be the man of the family. He had a lot of brothers and sisters. And for the rest of his life, the next 4 years in his dementia, his whole journey, he had his music, and he was more engaged and more alert than had he not had music and just been head down the rest of his life. So, yeah.
Interesting. So when I first learned about Music and Memory, it was a gal that I had become friends with near where I lived, and she told me about this film, and we watched it in her house. And I was just so blown away because, now I don't know if you remember this. And I was like, I have to meet this guy. And to me, you were like this big star. I mean, maybe you are. I don't know. Now you're just Dan Cohen, but okay, whatever. And I remember I met you in Manhattan. I remember where we were sitting. And I told you that for years, I had worked on units with people who were dependent on mechanical ventilation. Some of them were not really very alert. Some of them were beyond not alert, but some had a modicum of alertness. And I always told the families why don't you bring music they loved? Or and at that time we had cassette players. I don't know how many people in this viewing or listening audience remembers cassette players. Or I would say, listen, even if they loved sports, let's say they love football, why don't you get a tape of some, Super Bowls, or, if they love baseball, whatever it was, something that they love. love that they could relate to, that's in the deep recesses of their brain, right? Because that lives in the automatic part of your brain. And sure enough, I found some of the same things, but I wasn't as innovative as you, and I didn't make the connection to make the leap to the next level.
Well, isolation, loneliness, anxiety, these run rampant for people, for a lot of old people, and especially people with dementia. They've done surveys, and they find that in nursing homes in the United States, the average resident has 11 minutes of meaningful engagement per day.
Correct.
And in assisted living facilities, it's 20 minutes per day.
Right.
So it's kind of like, what? So that doesn't mean they don't have activities or they don't have a group activity. But, the group activity, we don't choose our music by, well, what's the group? What are these 20 other people listening to? And I'll listen to what everybody's listening to. No, that's not how we live our lives. And in fact, global studies, one of 21 countries by the record industry, and they track who's listening, how are they listening, and all that stuff. They found on average globally, people listen to more than 2 hours of their music every day.
Really?
Yeah. And the other interesting statistic is, well, and that totals in a lifetime 1.3 million songs we listen to in our lifetime, based on 3 minutes per song average. And the other stat, which was really interesting, 2 out of every 3 people, when asked, will say that music is really important to their mental health and their emotional well-being. 2 out of 3.
Cool.
So when we take people have dementia, and you figure, oh, they don't, they're out of it. Music, we used to do things with music, but there's no real reason for that now. Or somebody's in a nursing home, like, oh no, they just lie there all day. That's all we can do. No, we've taken away, they've lost touch with this. Right. We continue to have food and medication and roof over our head, no matter where we go. Well, why shouldn't we continue? Somehow there's a drive to have music for us as humans, as a species.
I wanted to ask you if you did any research. Oh, I forgot the name of the author. I should know it. Your Brain on Music.
Yes.
Which talks about, who's the author? I don't know why all of a sudden it flew out of my head.
Daniel Levitin.
Yes, I was right. Okay. And, because, there are studies, obviously, as you know, about what music does for your brain. And, what a lot of people might not know, which may be how how Henry connected with this music also, is because there's an automatic part of your brain that's connected with the things from your past, right? So what I tell people is, even if somebody had a stroke and they're not saying very much, but if you play a song or something automatic like a star, or the Pledge of Allegiance or the Lord's Prayer, they'll be able to recite it. And I say to people, if I named a song that is familiar, you may know the title, and I say sing it, you might not be able to, but once you hear the music, you'll start to sing the entire song and don't even realize that you knew all of the words, because
right.
That is in the recesses of your brain.
There's still a lot of the brain that's functional, even though some parts are ravaged. So,
right.
Music is going to be there because it's a
right.
long-term memory, and with dementia, in terms of memory kinds of loss and decline, that's more, short-term, although it goes back in time, but
right.
but from your youth, from when you were 10, 15
right.
years old, boy, that stuff is there, but you got to figure it out. That's the challenge. People
right.
say, oh, I tried it with my mother. It didn't work. Well, do you know what she loves?
Right.
No,
well, that was,
she likes country music or classical or rock, but which?
So it's so
song?
funny that you're saying that, because I have thought of this, as I'm chronologically increasing in numbers of years.
No.
I'm being very judicious in choosing my words, right? But I often think, maybe my daughter, she might know a couple of songs that I love, but I bet she doesn't know a full range of them, and they may go across many genres.
So to reinforce that, so when I speak to, let's say, several hundred caregivers, right, in a room, and I'll say, okay, I want you to take out a piece of paper and write down your top 5 favorite songs within your favorite genre, and then don't tell the person next to you what you wrote down. Just tell them, this is the genre that I love. I want you to guess my top 5 favorite musicians, not just songs, but even just artists or
Right.
groups. And even if people know each other, they, if I say, well, how many people got all 5? Nobody raised their hand. 4, maybe one person, 3, 2, 1, maybe a handful.
Right.
People don't know. They know that first level of, yeah, Dad loves, Sammy Davis Jr.,
Right.
Queens, Elvis Presley. I mean,
Right.
but that's it.
Right.
And so, so it's tricky. So we need to really be a little more explicit with them, so that they have the music. Any one of us could have a stroke tomorrow, and if people around us who love us don't have that list and don't really know, then we're stuck, because they're not going to be able to easily figure it out. And maybe there are ways to sort of try to find out, but they're going to miss a lot of things.
Right. So if somebody has somebody with a loved one, or family member, friend, or somebody close to them, or knows somebody who does, what would you suggest they do? Let's say before they get to that advanced stage, but even if they are at that advanced stage, what would be your recommendation?
So I'll start with, if somebody is is diagnosed. And I say this because 2 of the Alzheimer's organizations, when people come in, they say, we'll give you a free music player and we'll put on all your music. You tell us, we'll put it in, we'll test it over Zoom to see if the people are reacting to it. And they have like a hugely close to, like, let's say over 90% success rate.
Cool.
Of match. But in a nursing home where people come in and they have late stage very often, and maybe have no family around, or family don't know, then the success breaks out into thirds. 1/3 have they're really loving their music. 1/3 is, well, they're quiet, they're enjoying it, they're not too enthused, or they are somewhat, or being calm is better than being agitated, or whatever. Right. And the last third, no benefit. And that is attributed mostly, in my belief, to the fact, and comparing it to the Alzheimer's organizations that are getting people earlier, when they're able to articulate, oh, yes, you have dementia. Oh, okay. And your music? Oh, I could tell you what I like. You know what I mean?
Right.
People can still tell you.
So,
and you'll get a different result. So so I'm sorry, go ahead.
No. I was going to say, so it would really behoove people, just like they ask questions about people's family or ancestry, or, tell me your favorite recipe, or, pass down certain things, to maybe sit down with people and say, hey, listen, start to write down the list of your favorite, top 10, top 20, top 50, take your time and do it. I mean, that would be actually a great exercise. And it could even be an exercise where it could go into history, and, a person said, oh, and I saw this. I remember my mother telling me when she saw Frank Sinatra. I remember this story like it was yesterday, and my mother's gone quite a number of years. I just remember that story. So that's part of it, that sharing, right?
I love your recipe analogy. I'll call it now the recipe box.
Okay.
Right. So you want all grandma's favorite recipes,
right,
and you want all grandma's favorite groups, and if it's written down, everybody wins. Because what sometimes happens is people say, well, I got, I've got 10 songs. Well, if you're doing that every day, 10 songs, none of us wants to listen to the same 10 songs, right? They'll put it down. They'll say it doesn't work. No, because we're going to react the same, whether we're, 90 with dementia or sharp as a tack and younger. Right. We're going to get bored. So we have to have variety. It's got to be different every day for the most part. So, yeah.
So cool. So I think we have something that shows the benefits. Isn't there a slide that shows the benefits, the psychological benefits, the emotional benefits? Is that what that slide shows?
Yes. We can put that up.
Let's see if we can put that up so people could get a chance to see that.
So what's so interesting about, just before I talk about what's on this slide, make an analogy to medications. When a doctor prescribes a medication, it usually has one target effect, that it's looking to make, right? It's intervening somewhere. And if you have lots of things that are lots of issues, well, therefore you're going to have lots of medications.
right? As people do.
What surprised me, because I went into this thing, yeah, good, it'll be good for mood. Great, people will be happier. I was shocked by all of the unexpected outcomes. I was shocked that people that have music are less likely to fall. people that have music are less likely to they're less likely to feel as much pain as they do. It can reduce the perception of pain. Both of these are proven out. The pain thing has been, the nursing groups of like 20 years ago, like they knew this. And I mean, speech and swallowing, that's your world.
Right.
And you can talk, but I'm just gonna, this is broken out into 3 different groups. So, music will have a scatter effect in benefits.
Right.
So you may do it to give somebody a better mood, but you didn't realize they'd be more social and interactive, more willing to talk. And they'll be more alert more quickly. Their appetite might be better. Play it before mealtime. Yeah, I'm ready to eat. They'll eat more. People are less likely to become delirious when you go into a hospital. We all know, many of us, that an older person goes in, they have some dementia, they're going to decline really fast. Their vocabulary is out. My father, in 2 hours, there's nothing he could say that made any sense.
Right.
And so that is, and delirium is kind of a condition where your risk of mortality doubles because of all of the bad things that can happen. And music can be used to be helpful. Huntington's disease is sort of a lot of uncontrolled movements. And I saw this great video of how people use it in Australia, and the guy's playing sort of basketball kind of catch. From once he has his headphones on, he's more able to move and speak. It's very cool. Parkinson's,
Same.
fluidity of movement.
Absolutely.
People who have trouble taking a step at a time, really deliberately, but give them that music, maybe 90 beats per second, and it's boom, 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 boom. Had a woman, she said, yeah, I could walk with my husband. We'd go just inch along without the music, and when we had the music, he would go down step over step, and smoothly. And so that's wild stuff. I mean, there's Dancing for Parkinson's. It's a huge global nonprofit approach that music works so well. You mix it with dance, people are going to be in a better state physically and a better state functionally, and in their sort of sense of well-being, emotional health. And so that's exciting. The psychosocial, again, this is the sort of usually we talk about mood and such. Brain fog. I know this one gentleman speaks publicly all the time. He has dementia, and he talks about he'd wake up in the morning. His name is Brian LeBlanc, public speaker on dementia, and he'll talk about if he's up and he just can't get his grasp and do what he had to do in the day, he'll put on the music, and it'll help facilitate sort of a lifting of the fog. And then he'd be able to do things. And he had the stuff set up on his Alexa, on his Siri, on his Apple HomePod Mini to guide him through the day and to play music. Play that playlist at a certain time. It's time to play your upbeat playlist.
Right.
Get ready for bed. Dialysis, which very few people relatively go through, but people do. It's tough if you have dementia and you've got to sit in a chair for 3, 4, 5 hours, maybe 3 days a week. How's somebody with dementia going to, I don't know what's going on. And you let me pull these, tubes out. And so they'll use it to calm.
It keeps them calm.
Yeah. And to distract everybody else, because nobody likes to be sitting that long.
Right.
The TV in front of you doesn't necessarily do it. And the environmental is really interesting because people don't talk about it as much. And really, music is helping the caregivers in many ways as much as the people with dementia. So if you're a caregiver, there's a big issue with caregiver stress and caregiver burnout, that people are home. They're home 24/7. They don't want to leave their loved one alone. And so then they burn out, and very often they pass away or get really sick before the person they're caring for because of the stress. Sort of a known phenomenon. But research, ranges between 25 and 50% reduction in caregiver stress. So the music would apply regardless. Dementia and not any condition where there's somebody they require a lot of care and somebody's home. That stress is there. Even the aides. I mean, they find that it helps the aides help give them more confidence and help them sail through the day. Because what happens when people have their own music, they're more cooperative. There's less resistance to care. Very often people with dementia, they don't want to be bathed. Leave me alone. But you put music on beforehand, get them going. Oh, let's go now. We'll keep the music going.
Exactly.
And, you can get things done. One nursing home, getting people dressed in the morning, measure to cut the time to get people up, dressed, and going in the morning in half. Because there was no leave me alone kind of resistance.
So, this always, we could talk about this forever, what I'm going to say. and it's unfortunate, which is, you know, since it's obviously proven that this is so beneficial, why don't facilities and people, and why don't they want to do it? But listen, I have that even in the things that I do, where I could, you know, show that, you know, for whatever program that I develop, that it will be better for the resident. It might even be better financially for the facility. And in this case, it might be better financially because it will take less time to care for people, right? And
Yes.
there will be less burnout. So there'll probably be less absenteeism, and there'll probably be less opportunity for people to get into a bad mood because of how stressed and overwhelmed they are in their work, right? And so I don't know how they don't see the benefits, even if you show them from a financial point of view, the benefit that it would have to them. I just, frankly, I mean, we could talk about this forever, you know, that it's just perplexing. To me, it's just perplexing.
Well, it's very interesting. One of the New York City specialty hospitals has, they did a little research with 100 people with advanced dementia. And I went into the room one day. What they do is they give them their music in the morning, maybe for a half hour, in the afternoon again, and that took care of them for the day. So therefore, the nurses, they couldn't express how happy they were, because they weren't running after the 2, 3, 4, 5 people that were just taking up all of their time and attention because they were distressed. Here now, everybody can be treated fairly, and the turnover in this section was amazingly low.
Of
People
course.
loved it there. Now, I don't know cause and effect, maybe because the leadership excellence there brought this program in and how made it happen are also just great leaders elsewhere. But it doesn't really matter. You know, my sense is if a facility has a great program of music and a rich environment and it's personalized, then they're going to be doing other things that are taking care of individuals.
I agree.
And to the best of their stated intentions.
Right. I agree. You know, interestingly enough, I'm not like interestingly enough, very often when I'd be in a building, and like you say, they have these, you know, once a month, maybe they have a sing along or a birthday party or a performer, however often they do it. Right. And like you say, somebody comes in and plays whatever they play, their playlist, or they think the people there would be interested in. Of course, there are people of different backgrounds, different ages, right? Different parts of the country, different experiences. But nevertheless, more often than not, if there's somebody there that's upbeat and, you know, trying to get them going, you will see people, and I'm sure you've experienced this, who normally sat and didn't do anything, and the next thing you know, they're bobbing their heads or tapping their foot or, you know, moving in their chair, whatever. I mean, it's a level of engagement that really has such beneficial, you know, effects, like you say, not only for the person, but for the environment. And then oftentimes, you know, in these places, you'll see caregivers, CNAs, nurses say, oh, look at so-and-so, they're dancing or they're whatever. And then they'll go and they'll, you know, engage with them and whatever. And it just brings such a different level of positivity, right? That isn't there without that.
And it extends to, if one person has a great reaction, when we were filming Henry, and the people around him were all stopped to watch him.
Right.
They were happy. These people, they live their lives together. They're in the same, you know, area of the nursing home, and to see someone change and to be just super upbeat and happy with that, you know, they all noticed, regardless of, you know, how advanced their dementia seemed to be. So you know, that's all true. I've even seen basically when another outcome from the administration point of view and staff is the morale in the whole place is better because everybody's affected. You know, I talked about caregivers at home. Well, caregivers at work, you know, yes, they're more cooperative residents, but they're in a better mood themselves. The day's not as hard. And then I've also seen, you know, nurses from different countries, all of a sudden they're communicating more with each other because they're talking back and forth on this song and that song. Right. What are you trying? Da, da, da. And so where there might have been less than optimal communication, it breaks down walls amongst these, you know, people providing care. It's just crazy.
It's extraordinary, actually extraordinary. And, you know, also, because people are from different cultures the caregivers are from different cultures, they actually get a chance to learn more about the residents that they're taking care of, what their likes are, right? And what lights them up, what their likes and what lights them up. And then I have seen this where they'll, kind of learn a melody or a few words. And then when they go to take care of the person, they kind of sing a little bit of whatever that song is. And it just creates a greater bond between the caregiver and the person that they're caring for.
Well said. That really does happen, especially if a place doesn't have much turnover. Which is another issue. But
right.
But when you get to know your residents, it just facilitates that that connection,
right,
and that sense of care.
Yeah.
The other thing in terms of visiting, people too often. There was a story a woman told me in a nursing home. She works there. She said, well, she has like 7 brothers, and their mom got dementia. And their mom doesn't know their names. So the brothers say, if you don't know my name, I'm not visiting you. So she said, so she's the one who's like, got to do everything. And so this is maybe it sounds like an extreme example, but
Right.
certainly we know that people are nervous about visiting people who have dementia, people
Right.
they've known for years and years, maybe their whole lives, and because they don't know what's going to happen, they don't know what to do. And there was one study in Ohio that 17% of people that visit a family member with dementia can't wait to leave.
Right.
Because they don't know what to say. And my answer to that is, if you come in knowing what music they love, and you just sit there and just put on music and watch what happens, and we're playing. If it doesn't work, skip to the next song. Something is going to hit, and then they wake up. Then it changes the whole mood in the room. It's
correct.
It's amazing.
It really is amazing. Yeah. So, I would urge people to go watch the film Alive Inside. Oh, you want to tell people where they can find it? It is quite. I will say though that it's very touching. It could be very emotional. So I'm just telling that to people because it really isn't. It's really extraordinary.
Yeah, it's still rated pretty much G, if that's still a term these days. And it's intergenerational, so it's great to have kids, teenagers. There's nothing negative, but it helps.
Right, but I'm just saying that it's emotional because
it is emotional.
When you see these people, actually, the title "Alive Inside," they actually do come alive, and it's quite an extraordinary experience to see it.
You laugh, you cry, but those are happy tears.
Right,
it's very moving. It got 8.2 for those who follow the Internet Movie Database of all, people that watch movies, which is like up there. Everybody does. It's only 78 minutes long, which is important. That's after the full credits, so it's shorter. And so it's not something. Oh, it's a long movie. No, everybody could squeeze it in. And even at work, they would show it. Sometimes they train CNAs and nurses, watch this movie as part of your training, because we want you. And sometimes it's part of the screening process for getting a job. Because if somebody sees even that Henry and has no reaction, well, so why are you showing me this? Then maybe they're not, empathetic enough to work with people every day like this.
Right.
So the movie is. Well, we could, if you want. Well, we could go to the second slide or third slide, whichever one you want.
Well, which one is it on the second slide? No, that's the first slide. There we go.
So we'll come back to Alive Inside in a second.
Okay.
That's fine. We've talked about it, but and we'll come back to it. And I'll say a little bit more. So this is an infographic that I helped prepare for AARP. It's on their website. It's part of their brain health initiative of what people should know. They believe that music is as important as the other things that are recommended. Sleep, exercise, good diet, music. So that's gonna come into its own importance over time as the people understand the research and what's really going on with kind of what we're talking about today. So it really shows one thing happens with music. So this was a story, somebody at a nursing home, or somebody, mother-daughter. The mother lived at home with the daughter for 5 years. The daughter knew about using music. It really helped at home for 5 years. Then mom had to go to a nursing home. And when they went to the nursing home, she said, "Can you give my mom this music, every day?" They said, "Oh, no, we don't do that here. We don't have the bandwidth. It might get stolen. We can't. Needless to say, the daughter was really upset, right? So it's kind of a gap. So we can get something already and going to the next step. So here it's really at home, different ideas, whether at home, in the community, maybe day programs, dementia choirs, memory cafes, and all of these have a lot of music. And the assisted living, what can you do in someone's room, or if they have dementia in their main population, so to speak, or in one of these locked, secure units, as they call them, the ways you can work with them. The nursing home, you work with the staff. The hospital, people don't think, oh, I can't bring my music player, I can't bring my music into a hospital. They're not going to allow a headphone or anything. No problem.
Right.
You can, and they know this is good. And you're not going to get in their way. You keep the wires, if you have wires, out of the way, and you'll have the music. And again, they like that. You'll be happier. And also, I mean, like my mom, when she died last year, when she was, really her last days, I said, well, do you guys have, or can you get me somebody who can play, some music? I know music by bedside. And they said, yes, there's a program where we have really top-notch musicians who volunteer. And that was really wonderful also. So, I mean, you can ask for these things. Good.
Yeah, I was going to say, based on what you just said, people say, oh, I can't ask for that. And this is what I tell people when I coach them. The reality is that you may not think so because you are dependent on these places to care for your loved one, and some may be caring better than others. But the reality is that this is a business, and every business needs customers, and you are a customer, and it's actually you are in the driver's seat because as the customer, you want to ensure that your loved one is getting the service that this business is supposed to be delivering. So I always tell people that to be more vocal, be more of an advocate. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. They can't do anything to you, right? That this is what your loved one needs. Like you said, it's just like a pill. It's just like whatever other treatment they need. And that's what you're trying to do, really create this as part, make this integral to the prescription of treatments that the person is entitled to receiving. Is that correct?
Absolutely. And along those lines, and going back to what I mentioned in the beginning, and when if somebody's in a nursing home and they go to the hospital, or they go between and among any of these things, what accompanies them everywhere they go? Their meds list.
Right.
That's like law. But the problem is, so a nursing home, let's say a nursing home has done a great job. They got the playlist, and they know what music they love from home. They've been in the nursing home, and now they have a heart issue. They're off to the hospital. Well, if they don't give the music with them, a lot of people are going to be poked and prodded, and they get there and they'll be waiting for 10 hours before they see someone, and maybe after they're all done, if they need to be admitted, another 10 hours till they find a bed. At least we're talking about major metropolitan areas. I don't know.
Right.
And it sort of it is a gap, and so we want to have music. To me, it's amazing because people, when they're putting out gurney, sometimes right away, boom, now they're lost again.
Right.
But if they have music, something to grab onto. I had a guy who's like 90 years old, and he had to go to hospital, and he had a heart, something, and he went, and I knew he loved what do you call it? Big band music, and so I made him a list, and I brought it to him in the hospital, and I left him there. A couple of days later, I came back. He was, he's fine, nothing really big. He was going to be discharged, but he's still in his room. I came in, he had his headphones on, he was dancing in his room to the music. He said, "I'm having a great time." And for months after that, before he did pass, for months, he said, "I had the best time in that hospital."
Wow.
Now, who says that ever?
Right.
Right?
Nobody.
Nobody.
Right.
So, and he just got to boogie all day, even when he was in bed or whatever. And so that's, and then to take that, and he had it going home. So, and he had it till he died. And so we want continuity. That's really my only point.
Right.
But it's going to be up to you, because I know there are many people, many of your listeners are at any one of these stages with somebody, or had been maybe one day, or will be, right, one day. And in line with what you're saying, yes, you have a right to ask all these things because they know you're right. There is no downside to music. And worst case scenario, it does not work because you can't figure it out, or there's something else going on that you just can't, it's just not working. But again, you can make it happen.
But I'm going to comment on that because you see, people would have a greater tendency to poo-poo it or dismiss it because the music, quote unquote, isn't working. Maybe the person didn't like the performer of that music, or maybe how it was being played. But what I was going to say was, but what happens when they get a medication and that doesn't work? Nobody makes nobody says, forget the medications, right?
They keep trying.
Right, they keep trying. But with music, because they think of it as maybe ancillary, or I don't want to say superfluous, they don't really recognize the importance of it. They tend to be more dismissive and, that's something else. It's not that important.
Well, that's an attitude kind
Right.
of, and it's also related to stigma. Oh, these people, they're gone. Ageism, right. These people, they're old. I mean, they're up against a lot of obstacles. And that's why, it leads us to talking about, Alive Inside. Let's go to that last slide.
The last slide, right. No, not that one. It's this one, right.
So in order to be successful in kind of getting your way for what you know is right now, there are two things. It's sort of like the head and the heart. In the heart, oh, why bother? People have a lot of misconceptions about dementia. Professionals, oh, it's music. That's not really going to help, because everybody's their own expert on music. They can, right. As long as they can remember, to attach music. What do you mean with healthcare?
Right.
How far up? So it sounds like not together at all. But we've been going for like 25 years with promises of a cure around the corner, and we're not anywhere near a cure. And so in the meantime, people we could be doing so much more for people while they're here if we did something like this unrelated. So the movie had the unexpected outcome of also not just telling people about music, but also bringing people from a place of, oh, they have dementia, how sad, nothing you can do, to, right. Oh, yeah, I get it now. These doctors, these scientists in the movie, these people with the disease talking, the family members, I was moved by it. I was touched by it. I get it now. And right. So therefore, now I'm in a place where now you can talk to me about this, right? So it's really important it's good to watch it ourselves, because it'll stay with you the rest of your life, and you'll have it ready, and it's free on YouTube, and it's on Amazon Prime, it's on Apple TV. So that's the heart piece. We want people enthused, not, oh, you don't have to drag it out of them. And so let right. the movie do the work, because you're not going to drag it out of them.
No, I agree. Several years ago, I had a gal staying with me for about 6 weeks. She was in between where she was living, and she was moving back to Texas. And her mother had dementia, and didn't sound like it was really at the incipient, the very beginning stages. It seemed like, she was a little further along. And it always amazed me that her father had been a CFO of a major company. So, this was an educated person, but they never really looked up online anything about dementia or Alzheimer's. And I don't remember if it was Alzheimer's or another form of dementia. And, she would tell me all the difficulties they had and whatever. So I suggested she watch the film, and she was just blown away. I mean, she just couldn't believe it. And she got in touch with me after she went back to Texas and said they're trying some of the music. They're trying to find the music that their mother loved and trying to play it, every once in a while. And it seems to have a calming effect. So, yeah, I mean, this was somebody, and I don't know why a lot of people, there's so many resources out there. A lot of people don't, maybe they're afraid, maybe they don't want to know. It's scary to them, right? But, hopefully, like you say, if people will watch the film, it might inspire them. Right.
So that's exactly right. And I think along with that, in terms of setting up a playlist, we all listen to music differently. We may listen to music every day, but is there a place where we have it kind of all in one place? Or do we, we can go to, when we go to musicals or classical, any live musical event in the community, we can bring our loved ones there, and dancing. And is there a dementia choir, or is there a church, something that's out there where they're doing this? The other part to the slide there. So Deloitte, the accounting firm, looked at like 90 plus research of top studies, and they said, well, two things. They talked about overall what is the impact of music, and number two, from a life enrichment kind of approach, and also for the people that are concerned about their expenditures. Is there a return on investment? What they found is that for every dollar spent, there's a $2.40 return on investment. So they're more than doubling their money whatever they spend. Well, this is very huge. It's hard to do this. It took a Deloitte expert in this kind of whole thing. So Deloitte Canada actually did this, and the study was sponsored by AARP, and helped led by Johns Hopkins Medical School's Neuro Arts Blueprint. And so what they found was, on average, people have the depression reduced by almost half, 30% improvement in emotional well-being, 30% improvement in sleep quality, 22% reduction in neuropsychiatric symptoms, and 30% improved caregiver burden, or reduced caregiver stress. And it's a great report. Anybody could find it online. Just type in Deloitte and music and AARP, and kind of it'll pop right up. And if you're interested in really doing a deep dive on, and it's not the kind of research where it's like inscrutable from the front page.
Right.
This is readable, and really interesting, what they found and such. So
you know what? I would venture to say that if Deloitte and it was AARP, but it was Deloitte and Johns Hopkins,
yes.
Participated in this study or did this level of research, then obviously it has validity, because clearly if it didn't, they wouldn't be going down that path.
Correct. This was a job well done.
Right. And so to me, and to my message, to people listening and watching, that this is not some woo-woo, superfluous, crazy notion. This is being looked at by major institutions in the country for its value.
I'm going to read you some quotes. I'm not even going to tell you where I got it from, because I'm probably not allowed to, but I can. Or one quote that I thought was really cool. Just somebody, no name. This is the first time I felt taken care of. This is the first time I felt like a human being. Music makes me happy, makes me feel younger. Actually, I have like a ton of quotes like this. I've got over the years, and they're all kind of fall in this kind of vein. Or I spoke to someone the other day who's a caregiving expert, said, I did this with my mom, and this was huge, right, for us. So people talk about having better relationships because maybe they've lost a step along the way, battling over things. And then when they played one song that might have been common to both of them growing up, and that sort of opened it up, and it changed the nature of the relationship. So all these things, not that any one of these things is going to work, for everybody, but there's no hurt and no harm in trying.
Nothing beats a failure but a try, as I say. But like you said, like we said earlier, it's no different than any other prescription. Okay, so if I have whatever ailment I have, I may get, a doctor may give me a certain prescription, and you may get a different one. for the same thing, and has to do with our constitution and our size and our weight and our gender and our age and, a whole host of things, right, that goes into making that decision. So this is really no different. And that's what you're really advocating for this to really be a prescription, part of what people are entitled to for their health care. Can you just talk about a little bit about what you're doing with that?
Well, my focus now is I pivoted. So music and memory is up and running, and the folks I trained, they're doing it. They're training facilities every month, and I'm looking at that other 90%
Right.
of the world that's saying, no, no, thank you. But there's a lot of movements though now compared to when I started in 2006. A lot of conferences. I just spoke at a UN conference on using arts and well-being, but the goal is to get that general adoption and change stigma and change policy and raise public awareness. And so my focus is, and I work with people in other countries and people in the US, just trying to change policy. And just the way in North Carolina, the Alzheimer's organization there, the Dementia Alliance of North Carolina, they'll give any person who's got dementia a music player and they'll set it up for them.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
That's very cool.
In Toronto, the Alzheimer's Society in Toronto will give anybody in Ontario, the province, the most populated province in Canada, they'll do the same thing. They started in 2013. It's worked so well. They've done it every year. They set up 800 people, and they're now about to pass 10,000 people. And it's quite amazing. And it's a big success. And so why wouldn't, to me, why wouldn't every dementia support organization in the country?
I agree. So let me ask you, do you know anything about Connecticut? Because I've had on this show, and I've known her for years, the Connecticut state director of the Alzheimer's Association. No, she's not. She's the communications director for the Connecticut State Alzheimer's Association. Have you ever connected with them? Because I can connect you with her.
Let's do that.
Yeah, she's great. Like I said, I've known her for years.
Love to do that.
Yeah, that would be I would be thrilled to be able to do that. I mean, that would be awesome.
That would be great. And so so in terms of the question about what's next, we don't really know for every person what's that ideal combination of music, dance, singing, playing an instrument, right? We know Glenn Campbell was out there. Glenn Campbell was singing, right? Singing, even though he had to be helped off the stage and couldn't remember, he advanced dementia, but put him on there with his guitar and a mic in front of him, boom. And so that's what people can do. We want to not forget that permanently. Yeah, they did play. And let's give them the violin or the guitar or whatever it is, and watch that physical memory work. And singing at home, humming together. It doesn't have to be fancy.
I agree.
It just, and what's a combination you may find? I want people to really think creatively of all the ways they can, and looking at photographs, family photos, have the music. When you're doing watercolor, have the music going. People tend to be even more productive and tend to do watercoloring even further along the path of decline. If they have their music going, it'll just prompt them more. Music with visitors, music with family, music with eating, music with walking. Want to go get some exercise? Let's put on the headphones or just play the music in your pocket, loud or loud enough. Music and movement are integrally tied together.
Absolutely.
So lots of things we can do and it's great to have stuff to do that's positive, that you'll enjoy, and will give you more respite at home. For those of you at home where you're worrying all the time, where if somebody has their music, the 20 minutes at least they're going to be sitting there listening, and you can go outside, go on the phone, you can get stuff done for that very short respite.
Yeah, that's terrific. Well, Dan, it's always great to connect with you, and we hadn't for a while, so I'm so glad that you were able to make the time, and your groundbreaking work with music and memory, and your advocacy and continued work with Right to Music. I hope it inspired viewers and listeners who may have someone in their family or someone they know living with Alzheimer's disease or dementia to understand that there are ways to help them. And not only help the person, but help the relationship. I think that's one of the most important takeaways.
Awesome.
So thanks a lot, Dan.
Great. Oh, thank you for having me, and good luck, everybody.
Thanks a lot. So now I'd like to turn to next week's guest on Senior Nation, Lori La Bey, who is a passionate and inspiring keynote speaker and the founder of Alzheimer's Speaks, a Minnesota-based advocacy group and media outlet making an international impact by providing education and support for families and people living with Alzheimer's disease and other dementias. She became a champion for people living with dementia after her mother was diagnosed and lived with the disease for 30 years. In 2011, Alzheimer's Speaks Radio launched as the first program dedicated to dementia in the world and is still named #1 Alzheimer's podcast. And it's been applauded by and Maria Shriver. So remember to tune in, comment, and ask questions on Wednesday, October 8th at 7 p.m. Eastern Time on the Source TV Radio Network. And until then, take care, stay well, and stay tuned.
Go for it, go for it. I'm just saying I'm not finished yet. Search for it, swing for it. Discover the me that lives in yes. Stand for it, stretch for it. It's my time, imagine my best. Run for it, reach for it. Uncover the me that lives in yes. I know, yes I know. There'll be miracles wherever I go. It's not work, it's play. I can make magic today.